Hello Flosstube, welcome to Snickerdoodle Stitch. My name is Kathleen and this is a channel about cross stitch. If it's your first time here, thanks so much for coming and spending some time with me. And if you're one of my returning viewers, thanks so much. I really do appreciate you coming and visiting with me and all of the comments that you all leave. So thank you so much. I'm gonna go a little bit out of order today. I'm gonna try something different. I have a couple FFOs. I'm gonna show those first and then do my stitching. And then I was fortunate enough, I had to go to Phoenix for 2 weeks for work and had a long weekend off in the middle. So I got to go to the attic, and I've also visited another needlework store, which is in Scottsdale, Arizona. So I'm gonna share some about my trip, but I'm gonna do that at the end with some haul, and I'm gonna kick things off with some FFOs. I showed these last time, I had finished them, but I didn't have them framed, and I did get them framed. This first one is Quaker Pumpkins by Hello from Liz Matthews. And for anyone who saw this before, I did make some changes. It said All Hallows Eve. Here's actually the pattern. I have it out. So it did say All Hallows Eve, and it had a little crow up here in the top. And I wanted this to just be a fall piece, not Halloween specifically, so that I could leave it up longer. And so I got it framed. I did modify it a bit and lifted this border so that it would fit perfectly in the frame. It's a frame from Hobby Lobby. I think it's a stock frame, or I thought it was, but it looks like it's a frame that I bought in their oops pile. And the width fit exactly, and then I had to make some modifications to get the height to fit. But I'm really happy with this. I have it sitting on the mantle in my family room, so I get to look at it every day, and I'll get to leave it up through Thanksgiving, so even better. I did get my Halloween decorating done before I left, so I got to come home to a clean house that was fully decorated, and that's been nice. But this is my, what did I say it was called? Quaker Pumpkins from Hello from Liz Matthews. It is on Fiber on a Whim Buttermilk, I think is the fabric. 32 count. So really happy with how that came out framed. And I have another piece that is FFO'd. This is an Autumn Lane Stitchery pattern. I had it from the 2021 Just Cross Stitch Halloween edition, but you can buy the pattern now. And I think it's called Current Mood. It is charted with the moods underneath. So like it says happy, I don't remember what, grumpy, angry, I forget what the moods were. I didn't put those on because I thought it was busy enough with the fabric that I used. The spider webs are all printed on the fabric. It's a fabric flare pre-printed fabric, and I just dug through my stash and found this is a stock frame that I had in stash that it's made to hold a couple 5x7s or 4x6s, and it fit perfectly in there. So really happy with how that turned out, and I get to have it out now too. Although I only leave it up through through Halloween. But those are my two FFOs. I didn't get a chance to FFO my Jardin Privé ABC de la Brodeuse. I still haven't entirely decided if I want to put fabric on the back since it's on banding, but I should have that to show next time. One day next week is a sewing UFO night. People quilt, they work on all kinds of things. A lot of times I'm doing my FFOing at the UFO night. And I want to try and get that finished. So I've got the bell pull rod and everything all ready for it. I don't have a bottom rod, so I need to find what I did with my drapery weights, because I think I'm actually going to fold the banding up and put a couple of those in the bottom just so that it will hang nice and straight. But that will come next time. Now, I did get lots of stitching done. I'm not entirely sure how, because like I said, I was gone for 2 weeks and I was doing a lot of sightseeing in that long weekend in the middle, and I was traveling for work and had a lot of work peers and part of my team and just people that I don't get to see very often. So we were socializing and doing group dinners, and I didn't have a lot of evening stitch time, but I did have a couple long plane rides, so I got some stitching done then. Although I have a funny story to show when I get to the stitching that I started on my way out to Phoenix. But this first one I finished when I was in the hotel, and it's Bent Creek Cat-o'-lantern, and I did not use the called for colors, and I didn't put the cat-o'-lantern words on the bottom. And this is a little piece, and I did it on a scrap of 32 count. It's Lakeside Linen Navy Bean, which I was just showing. I'm also doing my Strawberry Fields from Blackbird Designs on this navy bean, and I've got to get a hold of some more of this. It's just a very unique beige, right? It has kind of a it's on the gray side. It's not very yellow. It's not mottled. I just really like this fabric. Anyway, this is my cat-o'-lantern all finished. Most of the orange is Classic Colorworks Sassy Brass, which under some true light is the exact color of my old Cat Jacks. And I'll be showing in a few weeks. I've got some floss tags. I've got some cards on order to give out as floss tags at some retreats, and it's got a picture of my old Cat Jacks on it. So anyway, color of orange cats. I love the orange boys. They're my favorites. If anyone follows, what's the name of her channel? Last Chance Stitcher? Lucky Chance? I'll put it in below. She does a lot of fun, really cute. She likes cute critters, and she has fun videos, but she posted a while back that she wasn't going to be posting for a while because her cat had passed away, her last one, and she didn't think she was going to get any more. And then I think she was at like a pet adoption thing, and she ended up with not one, not two, but 3 little orange boys. So she's got her hands full with kittens, but they're so stinking cute. Oh, it makes me want one. It's been a couple years now since I lost my cat, and seeing the kittens, man. This next one is from With Thy Needle and Thread Jack-o'-lantern Jubilee book. And I have now done pretty much all 3 on the front, although I'm going to show this one. I only did the pumpkins. So these I had last year. I just hauled them out since I know I've got a lot of new viewers. So there's the pumpkins that are in the middle. I need to hold it up closer. And they're finished with, this is Urban Chicks fabric from a few years ago. They're one of my favorite fabric designers. I love their retro things that they do. And then I had also already done this, and it is on the Lakeside Navy Bean. That Navy Bean was a scrap that I had sitting out. Let me cover my face so that the camera will focus. This is from that same book, and I've got this little bat pin. All right, I'm just gonna leave it on the floor. I had that little bat pin stuck up in the corner. But the one that I just stitched, it's the last one that I want to stitch from that book, is Trick or Treat. And the hoop creased this linen really badly. I did iron this. Luckily, it's gonna be finished in a way that's not gonna, it'll be cut off or in the seam. But I finished Trick or Treat. It is all as charted. It's the called for colors. Oh, I take that back. The C is supposed to be a gold color, not orange, but when I started stitching it in the hotel room, I realized that I hadn't pulled any gold, so I just went ahead and stitched it the same orange as the pumpkin. So, I'm hoping to also have these 2 smalls FFO'd when you see me again next. And those all go in a little, they go in one of my milk glass bowls together. This next one is a start. It's the Halloween Quaker from Lila's Studio. This is the pattern. And you know, in my head, I always think that this pattern is just stitched in black, and it's actually got a lot of colors on it. And I don't know if I saw it at a retreat or something, and someone had stitched it all completely in black or mostly in black. These Quaker motifs even aren't all in black. There's black, there's $37.99, and then there's a dark brown. I can't think which number. I've got it right here. I should be able to tell. Oh, they mixed 844 and 310 for some of it. I am just doing anything that right here looks black in black. Although I did pull $37.99. So, or I'm sorry, it's $33.71. It's not $37.99. It's $33.71. I'm not going to do this blend of 310 and 844 just because doing the blend's a pain in the neck. Oh, there is $37.99. Anyway, most of the things that look black, I'm probably going to do in black. And then I probably will do all of the other colors because there are things like the pumpkin and witches stockings and things that aren't, they're just not going to work all in black. It's going to have some color in there, but in my head it's always black and I don't know why that is. So here's my start. This is on some 18 count fabric that I dyed myself. I started out with a light blue Ada, and I just over dyed it with some grays. It's 2 different grays, I think, that I mixed. And so I got the whole upper corner done. This is a pretty big piece though. You can see what I got done is this, if I can see around, it's this corner right here. So this great big Quaker in this upper corner is what I mostly have done. I've got one little chunk left to do. And my funny story, I started stitching this on the way out, and you'll see that there's a needle and some thread in there. And I had the bright idea before I left, when I was prepping things to travel, I found my corner on here and I marked it with a piece of thread, and I thought, oh, you know what? I'm just gonna go ahead and tie a knot, and then my needle will be here already. I won't lose it in my traveling. And I've got my corner marked. It'll be perfect. I'm set for starting on the plane. So I get on the plane, I haul out my fabric, I get my hoop on. I've got my needle, or so I think, because it's attached, and I realized I had no scissors. I went through, and I've got those little tiny scissors that have, you know, they're little and they're neon colored, and they have the little rubber tip that covers the points. And I have those in a lot of my project bags, especially the travel ones. And I had them in my pocketbook. I had them in my backpack. They were all over the place. And I went through and realized I had some places where I realized I had multiples. And so I went through and pulled a lot of them out. And somehow in doing that, I pulled it out of the project pouch that this was in. And my other project pouches were in my checked suitcase, so they weren't on board with me in the main cabin. So I had no scissors, and I'm thinking, oh great, I'm on a 5-hour flight to Phoenix, and I have no scissors. And then I thought, well, I can't really cut the thread with my teeth because I got soft teeth. I've had enough teeth that I've broken. I don't need to do it myself. Well, then I decided, okay, if I split it off and I just cut one strand at a time, I can do that with my teeth. And that's what I did to get started. So, yeah, this project won't be gifted to anybody since I've had my teeth all over the thread. Not that I had planned on gifting this, but so I left my needle in there as a reminder to self to take scissors. On my flight back home, I did make sure that I had the scissors from the pouch with the smalls. I had scissors in every other pouch with me. I just didn't have scissors in this one pouch. That was the only thing that I had on board with me. Anyway, I'm really happy with how it's coming out. It's looking really purple when I get up close. Sorry about that. And the stitches don't really show up so well in the black, but loving this piece so far. This is a big motif. Like, that's my hand. I have actually pretty small hands. So, but yeah, this is a fun stitch. I like doing Quakers, so I'm having a good time with that one. So that was a start. And then before I left, I worked on a couple different things. I worked on 12 Quakers, and it's from Rosewood Manor. There's a stitch along, Bake Me a Dozen, hosted by EJ from Sunshine Stitchers. And several people are already done. She broke the pattern into 12 quadrants or sections. They're not called quadrants if there's 12. And it runs last December through November. And then December, because it's a baker's dozen, Bake Me a Dozen, December is the catch-up month. And I just started this in July when I was at Stitch, New Jersey with EJ and Candy, the 614 Stitcher, who's also participating. And they're like, oh yeah, you should join. You can catch up. And I was thinking, yeah, there's no way. But I actually did a good job at catching up. So this Post-it note that's stuck on here is because that would be about the bottom third of this quadrant, this lower quadrant, which wouldn't be until November. So if I can get stitched up to here by October, I will be caught up. And I actually am almost stitched. I've got to do this 7 and 9, and these little motifs are 1/1. And I've got to finish this, and then I will be working on October. So I am almost caught up. This is where I'm at. So it's a lot more than when you saw it last. This is that motif in the corner that I said I've got to finish. It's a bigger motif. And this is where that 7 and 9, and there's a couple 1/1 motifs in there. Any of these smaller things that are more of a silver gray are all 1/1. And these are just some random silks that I pulled that are in the right colorways. They come out looking very different on this fabric because the fabric's so dark. When I move it up closer, or maybe back farther, this is actually bluer than the others, this center motif. And these actually have teal in them, but because the fabric's so dark, they really read as just white. And then this and this are actually two different flosses, but they are reading the same, but that's okay. I'm really loving this. Someone else that's doing the stitch along mentioned that they were going to finish it as a pillow. It might have been Gwen, who went to Alaska with us, and hers was completely finished. Somebody was going to do theirs as a pillow, and it's a fantastic size. I'm doing mine on 28 count because I pulled fabric and thread at a retreat, and this is what was there that went together, that was colors that I liked. So they only had this fabric in 28 count. I really want to find it in 32 count, and I'm not sure Zweigart even makes it because nobody has it, including Needlework with Jim, who's a distributor for Zweigart. So anyway, loving this, and I think it's like 10.5 by 10.5 on 28 count. So it's not terribly big and would be a perfect pillow size, like, you know, a 12 by 12 pillow form. It would be absolutely perfect. So I think that's probably what I'm going to do. It would go with my living room. And I'll hold it up closer so you can see it. Sorry, the light washes it out when I hold it up closer, but maybe I should move the light back. Someday I'll get this lighting figured out, gang. I've watched videos and all kinds of stuff trying to figure out the lighting, and it's just a mystery to me. But anyway, that's my 12 Quakers. And this last piece that I stitched on is my From Toledo to Toledo from AuryTM. And right now, the 12 Quakers, because I needed to catch up, has been what I would call my focus piece. So it's one that, well, Jardin Privé was, the ABC de la Bordeaux. And then 12 Quakers took over, and this one may become my new focus piece. I really enjoy stitching on this and really want to finish it. Here's the pattern up a little closer. It is a Spanish style sampler. And for anyone who enjoys doing Quakers, I think it's the same type of stitching. Here's mine so far. this is going to be a big piece. So this is on 28 count. It's what they did the model on. If you do it on 28 count, it finishes at 16 by 20, like just enough under that it will fit in a 16 by 20 inch frame, which is always nice to be able to use a stock frame. I am doing it on Fiber on a Whim Cream and Sugar. Cream and Sugar. I had to think for a minute if it was Cream and Sugar or Milk and Honey. It's Cream and Sugar. And last time you saw it, I had about half of this wide band done and a little bit of like the border and one color in there. So I completely finished this top band. And then if you're wondering why it's this odd assortment here, I want to next stitch. I want to next stitch this band right here. And so I was working enough of this edge down that I would get the correct starting point for this. And so now I've been working on this gold scallop bottom is what's happening here. So this was just me getting placement to start this long band, because over on this edge there's another piece that comes down. So I'm going to probably next do a little bit of this banding, the piece that goes here as well, just so I'm sure I can get this one, you know, to give me something to work off of, so that I'm sure it's placed right. Although now that I have this started, once I start doing the little fleur-de-lis things, I'll be able to tell based on where they're falling on the part that I already have stitched that I have it right. But loving stitching on this. It's in the called for overdyes. The gold color that's in there is just DMC. That's what's called for, but the rest is all overdyed. My only complaint with the pattern is that they don't tell you how much floss you're going to need. And like a couple of the overdyes, I forget how many. I think I originally bought 3 skeins of each color, and there's only like 5 colors, so that's not enough. After I stitched this, I realized I was able to better estimate how much I was going to need of the other colors. And so I bought some more, and it might have been Twilight, which is this blue in this really solid looking plus signs here is Twilight. And it looks really different. The ones that I got are more purpley or more green, and the original ones were more blue. So my plan is, like, when I do this next thing here, it has a lot of Twilight in it as well. It's this band right here, and these flower things at the top are Twilight. And so I'm going to use one of the skeins that are the slightly different color than what I used up here. So fortunately, the way this is broken into band sections, I think as long as I keep the same color dye within each band, it will work out fine. But I wish they just did the work and told you how many skeins to buy of each color. I posted on their Facebook group asking for the information, but last time I checked and it had been May. I still didn't have an answer. So when I finish, I'll let everybody know how many skeins of each color I used on 28 count. Obviously, if you did it on 40, it's going to be a heck of a lot less, but I actually wanted 16 by 20. I want to hang this over my piano in my living room. And the last thing that I worked on is my Something Wicked from La Di Da. This is the pattern. And my plan is to also do the Toil and Trouble. It's from the same, it's what the witches are chanting in the Shakespeare scene. And this is kind of boring stitching, but I did get a good, I got like 600 stitches done in here. Last time you saw it, it just had the heel and it had a tiny little bit. It had one row of this bottom. Well, this bottom is like 160 inches wide. So just getting the 3 extra rows on there were a lot of stitches. And then I got the curlicue and I got another chunk of the boot done. So My plan now is, I think, because I get bored working on this, maybe just do a couple rows of the, if I did just like 3 rows of this black per day, I would have this black boot done in a week. So that's my plan, so that then I can move on to really all that's there other than that is the words. I'm not going to do the black single cross stitch border that goes all the way around. I don't think it needs it, and that looks really boring to stitch. So that's my plan for this. So next time you see this, hopefully the boot will be done. The picture's not very good, so it's hard to tell, but you see a tiny bit of the stocking there at the top, which is in green, so I get to change colors after that. And then the words are also not in black, so I'll be done with the black once I get the boot done, and then there's just a couple spiders in black. But yeah, so hopefully next time you see this, there will be some words started on there. I really want to finish this year. I won't frame it this year. This fabric is a really tight fit, and so I want to keep it as one big piece. There's enough rolled up here for the other piece. I want to keep it as one big piece until I get them both stitched. So I won't be framing this year, but I want to get this finished stitched. I want to finish stitching this year. So that was all of my stitching. So now just into some chat. I mentioned before that I had a goal to watch a different Flosstuber each week, and I did get a chance. One of the hotels, only one of them, I was kind of bummed. Some hotels now have very limited TV, and then they've got smart TVs, so you can sign into Netflix or YouTube or anything like that, or some of those services. And on this trip, only one hotel had that. So I was bummed about that because I really was hoping I could watch some YouTube and do some stitching. But in the one hotel that did have that, I checked out a new stitcher, new to me, and it's Route 66 Stitcher. I'll put her handle in below. I think it probably came up in the feed because I was in Flagstaff, which Route 66 cuts through Flagstaff, Arizona. And I think I had even maybe been searching on my iPad for Route 66, but I don't know that YouTube would know that. But I'm sure it knew my location. I'm sure they know lots about anything anybody's watching. So anyway, Route 66 Stitcher. She does not have very many videos. I think maybe less than a dozen, and her last one had been some months before. But what she really does is show you everything that she's finished, and then some things that she's working on. What is on my sweatshirt? I swear in person I can't see anything, and then when I get on camera, the tiniest thing shows up. Anyway, sorry, I'm done with the distractions now, I promise. So it's like watching a finish parade, and she has some amazing things. So one thing she had from the Jingle Ball, anybody who's gone to Jingle Ball, I don't think I'm going to do that this year, but I did do that 2 years ago, and last year I signed up but then didn't end up attending, and that's partly why I decided not to try it again this year. But Jingle Ball, every year they put out a booklet. I mean, you can buy it. It's a pattern booklet, and it's a pattern from every one of the designers that's participating in Jingle Ball. And as far as I know, they're unique patterns. That's the only time you can get them. They're not releasing them later. I could be wrong on that, but I don't think so. I haven't seen any of the patterns from like 2 years ago. I haven't seen those pop up anywhere else. But she has done the entire booklet almost from the first year on a huge piece of slate fabric. She was talking about she was trying to do all of them on there, but she ran out of room. So they're not going to all fit on there, but she's got this huge piece of fabric with all these really cute Christmas ornaments on it. And it reminded me of a couple that I really wanted to stitch. One of them's a little mouse, and we know I've got one Christmas tree that is all mouse ornaments. So that was one thing. She had stitched this Something Wicked, and she had it also on kind of a I'll call this marmalade because that's what my friend Maureen called it when she suggested that I use this fabric when I was considering 2 others. And it's on, hers is on a similar color of fabric. But then she also had, I gotta look at my notes because I won't remember this name. She participates in an annual stitch along from peppermintpurple.com, and Peppermint Purple does all these black work patterns that are gorgeous, and they're not on their site. Their samples aren't done in black, and the Route 66 stitchers were not in black either, and they are stunning. And it's really got me thinking I may also participate in one of those stitch alongs next year. It would be fun to do just for something different, not cross stitch. I mean, black work is back stitch, but I don't hate doing back stitch. I hate doing all of that outlining is what I hate about back stitch. I don't mind back stitch if it's like words or something like that. So it's not going to bother me to do that for black work. But yeah, so peppermintpurple.com. I had to write that down because I knew I wasn't going to remember what I liked on her site. She does a lot on 40 count, so she does work on some higher count fabric, but just a really fun variety of pieces. And like I said, she doesn't have many videos. She's not going to dump into your feed every month or every week if you subscribe to her, but it is like looking at a finished parade. I mean, it just was thing after thing after thing, and she's got pillows, she had things framed, just a ton of gorgeous things. So my trip to Arizona, little chat about that and some haul I'll show. My work the first week was actually in Sedona, and when I Googled needlework shops near me, one came up and it was called Oldtown Needleworks, and it was listed as needlepoint and cross stitch. And our last day of our group, we were meeting at the hotel for a few days, and our last day we ended early. And even though it was 115 degrees, and I am really questioning why anybody would want to live in Arizona, that weather, 115 degrees. It is October. They were having record highs. Lucky me, because I love the heat so much. I was never so excited to get off that plane last night, and it was 7 o'clock here, and it was only like 73 degrees. And I'm like, oh, 40 degrees cooler. 40 degrees, people. It's 40 degrees hotter there. No way. But anyway, I walked in the 113 degree weather over to Oldtown Needleworks, and it was a delightful little shop. So one whole side was all needlepoint, but she had one whole wall that was all cross stitch. And one observation, I think because their probably original focus was needlepoint, they are drawn to different types of patterns than what I will describe that I found at the attic, or even a lot of other cross stitch shops. I mean, they just look at things differently. And they may also be looking for patterns that could be done in cross stitch or needlepoint on a blank canvas. So a couple of the patterns that I got, they had done there in needlepoint. So I know that's part of how they're also selecting their cross stitch patterns. And then they had a lot of patterns that were Southwestern or designed by some local designers who, you know, are not like the big names that we all know for market. So I had a lot of fun poking around in there. And then they had a really nice floss selection. They actually had a lot of Mill Hill kits. They didn't have a whole lot of fabric, but they had some. I didn't buy any. They had a lot of Picture This Plus, which is not my favorite to work on. So I typically only buy Picture This Plus if it's the called for and I really want to use the called for, like on the Rosewood, Manor, Winter Quaker, and Fall Quakers. I am stitching those both on the called for. So I did pick up a couple patterns there. Actually, I picked up more patterns than I remembered. So this first one, they had stitched up, and it's by Fireside Originals, which is actually out of Columbus, Ohio. But it's Desert Sunset 2, and it may be a little hard to see. Yeah, the color's better if I hold it back here. So it was just a really pretty desert scene. It's not very big. It finishes up like this size, so not big at all. And in the pattern, the red rocks at the bottom are done with some Threadworks threads, and the pattern included the Threadworks threads, and then the top part is all DMC. So yeah, it's only 40 by 160. It's fairly small. I debated starting this while I was there, but I'm really in my Halloween stitching mode, and they didn't have fabric that I really wanted for this. It ends up being full coverage, so I will likely do this on 16 count Aida, which would make it a good travel piece. So maybe if I'm going back to Phoenix again in the spring, that depends on if or when my company is merged, whether we'll be meeting again or not. And these next two, these are the ones that were done in needlepoint, but they are named as counted thread cross stitch designs. These are from Heartland House, and they do a lot of patterns that are stitch reproductions of Frank Lloyd Wright stained glass. And so I got these two. If I can get the glare off, there we go, maybe. There's not a lot of stitching. I mean, like these black lines are, they're just back stitch. And then if I hold it up close, you can see there's like some little tiny cross stitch squares in here, but most of the stitching's just in this upper piece, because that's what the windows are like, the stained glass. And these are reproductions of windows from the Avery Coonley Playhouse in Riverside, Illinois, which I may have to see where Riverside is. I've been to some Frank Lloyd buildings in the Chicago area. I'm a huge Frank Lloyd Wright fan, so I'll be stitching those up. They finish at, well, they have the size, but they don't say what size fabric they used. Yeah, they don't say that. They say they finish at 3.5 by 10 3/4, and that was what they looked like. And I want to say maybe it was on 32 count. But those I thought were fun, and never seen those before. So that was what I particularly liked. Like I said, about the needlepoint shop, the patterns that they have were not the patterns that we see everywhere. These last two are ones that we could, but it is one of my favorite designers, and it's some more Halloween patterns, which I surely did not need. And I thought I decided not to get this one. Maybe I changed my mind. These are from Batticuore. And we have Vigilia di Halloween. And this is just a really whimsical, some fun little witches, almost like fairies with pumpkins. I like how it's done on the petit point linen too, and I know I have some of that in stash. So that one may get stitched as is. Yeah, I may do that one exactly like this, even though I know there's some big blocks of solid color in there that I'm going to whine about stitching. But I even love this little ghost. Let me cover my face so the phone will focus. This little ghost is very whimsical, the way it, you know, she's got the little bow in her head, and even the pumpkins here have bows. But it's just really cute Halloween, and that's what I like. And this next one is also Halloween. And I thought I changed my mind about this one. This one is Nani Halloween Senza Zucche. I really need to use some Google Translate on how to pronounce these. Although it does say that it has the instructions in Italian, English, and French. Not that I need instructions, but, and it says it's not Halloween without pumpkins. Actually, maybe it's the saying that's in Halloween, English, and French. But I especially love this little witch right here. So I could even see me just doing this piece. I think, so I couldn't decide whether I wanted this because I'm having a little trouble deciphering what this is. Like, is it like a little gnome? I mean, it looks like a beard. But it's in like a witch's costume. I don't know. Anybody have any ideas? What that little, let me see if I can get the light better. What is happening with this little person right here? You see what I mean? It looks like a tan beige beard. This might be one of those little European people-y things that I'm not familiar with. Because this little witch doesn't have a beard. But like this little witch, look at her little pigtails flying behind her there. That's what's happening here. This gold is her little pigtails. There's a little cat sitting here riding along. That center motif I loved. Anyway, that was the last of my purchases from there. Were some patterns. And then I went to the attic. So one of my viewers did tell me that yes, the attic is sampler heavy. And to say it's sampler heavy is an understatement. I would say it's probably 99% samplers. They did carry a few designers that I stitch pretty frequently, like with the needle and thread. They did have some Silver Creek, and their website, when it showed like here's what we're getting from the August market, included some Counting Puddles, but I only found a couple Counting Puddles patterns, and I'm looking for one that's a new one. It had snowman in it. I don't remember what it said. I can remember the Silver Creek sampler one that I want that has snowmen. So that gives me some things to shop for. I've still got Stitch New England and Sweater Weather, 2 more retreats. So anyway, it is almost all samplers, but they have hundreds of samples. So, you know, you can just drool over the craftsmanship, and they are gorgeous. Their fabric, anything they had in overdyed was 36 count or higher. And they didn't have very much 36 count. So I had originally thought fabric would be my downfall there. I did not buy any fabric this trip. Yay! I don't need more fabric. So it was all very high counts. Candy, if you're watching, you might love their fabrics. A lot of 40 and 46 count. But the store is huge. It's beautiful. It's well organized, and I did buy a few patterns. So I did buy, oh, I'm sorry. I did buy one pattern that is not a sampler and not even really fitting in that category. It's a Crocette Gogo called Winter Joy. This is not a new pattern, but it's not one that I've picked up before. What is happening with my light tonight? I think maybe I've got it too close to me. Sorry, gang. This is going to be hard to see anyway because they are so small, but it's just winter, little pillows, ice skating. Like, I can't even read it in the picture. There's snow, place like home, and then we've got winter with a little truck and snowflakes, and we got a snowman with a little owl, and then just some little mittens and some little snowflakes. So just some really cute little non-Christmas winter smalls. So I picked that up. And then They did have a rack of modern folk embroidery, and the group that is doing the Bake Me a Quaker sow decided on doing Put a Bird on It for the stitch along next year, and they had Put a Bird on It. It was actually on my shopping list. I thought, okay, if I get there and it's all samplers, maybe they will at least have a section of Quaker samplers. And they did have a nice variety of Quaker samplers, and I bought a couple. So I did pick up Put a Bird on It. This is what Put a Bird on It looks like on here. The colors are not listed in here. It was actually designed as a single color sampler, and I am probably going to do it as a single color. I may do this one red on white because I still want to do an all white and red wall like Susan Aki has. I'll put a link below to her wall from her Instagram. It's just, I drool every time I see it. But this is not very big. So for example, an 18 or 36 count, it's 11 1/8 by 11 1/8. So it would fit perfectly in a 12 by 12 frame. That's always handy. But yeah, if anybody wants to join, it's EJ from Sunshine Stitchers who hosts the sow. And if you join Sunshine Stitchers Facebook group, that's where she posts things. The group that's doing the stitch along does a Zoom about once a month, I think on a Friday evening, or it might be Saturday morning. I attended one time on Friday evening, but I'm feeling like maybe Saturday was when they were normally doing it. I joined late, so there's only been one Zoom since I joined. But yeah, so I picked up Put a Bird on It. And then while I was looking at the Quakers and the modern folk embroidery in particular, I like this Swedish folk cushion. This is an older pattern for modern folk embroidery, but it's a little Quakerish, but definitely has a Swedish flair to it. Looks a little bit different, and it is actually really small. Well, not very small, but on 32 count, it's 9 by 9. It's only got 7,000 some cross stitches in it. So Swedish folk cushion. I don't know. I might start that one for like a Halloween, or what is my problem mixing up Halloween and Valentine's? A Valentine's start, since it's got the little couple holding hands there. Although these almost are a little snowflakey looking. Well, that's good for February too. It's still snowing then. And then the last thing that I bought, this is Allrange's Collected 2014 to 2021. And it's these two women. Sorry, there's something wrong. Oh, it's just the receipt. Annelies Vandenberg and Simone de Jong from the Netherlands. And they have a blog together where they did like a band a week. And they started this back during, well, it says something started during COVID. They started this in 2014, their first bands. They've got their whole story in here. But this book is just hundreds of bands to do this type of sampler. A band, you know, this is done on banding. I'm not sure I will do it on banding, although I do have a nice size chunk, like maybe 18 or 20 inches left on the bottom of my ABC de la Brodeuse. But it could even be fun to mix these up and do them in pieces so that they aren't all going the same direction and would have more of a look like this, you know, where you sort of puzzle piece them together and have them going different directions. So there are, I mean, they have some numbered. Oh no, that's the, yeah, see, they had their banding per week for 2021. There's 93 bands, and that's just in the last like 5 pages of this book. This book is like 30 some pages. And the banding in the beginning it looks like they actually have started with the narrowest, and then throughout the book they get wider and wider and wider. But like the first page, there's got to be 50 bands on it. So it's just tons of different bands. It'd be a nice reference book for borders, all kinds of things. And I had never seen this before. So a lot of it were patterns that had been released on their blog that aren't there anymore, and they've just compiled the 10 years together, 7 years, into this really nice book. So I'll do something with that. And while I was at the attic, I was laughing, I was checking out, and I was talking about the weather with the cashier and their credit card. They didn't have a credit card machine because theirs had expired. So they had to get a new machine, and the bank was there working on getting them set up. So the cashier was just taking all my information, and she asked for my phone number, and I started with the area code, and she's like, "Oh, where in Delaware are you from?" And I'm thinking, wow, someone in Arizona knows the area code 302? And then she said she has a house in Townsend, which is about, I don't know, 20 minutes south of me. She had lived here, raised some of her kids here. She was originally from the West, then moved east, and now she's back west. But still has kids and grandkids here in Delaware, so it was kind of funny being in Arizona at the attic, and the cashier had lived a large chunk of her life and raised her kids here in Delaware. But yeah, a delightful shop. Definitely not my style of patterns in general, but the samplers just, I mean, there's hundreds of them. All of the walls are completely covered with samples, and the stitching's just gorgeous. They did have one whole table when you first walked in, a round table with redwork samplers. Not redwork, the Bristol School style, so red on white, Bristol samplers. And they were gorgeous and amazing and stitched on like 56 count, so that they're this big, some of them. There were not any patterns on there that I love that I didn't already have, so I already have several of those patterns because I want to do the red and white wall thing. But just drooling over all of their samples is worth the visit. I don't know if it's worth dealing with 113-degree weather. The hottest day was that day, that Friday that I went to the attic. It's just the weather was miserable. I'm so glad to be back home where it's like hoodie season. It's getting chilly, folks, and I'm excited. So I think that's all that I have for this week. My next video may be sooner than 2 weeks. So next week I'm home, and then the following week I'm on vacation, and that Thursday afternoon through Saturday is Stitch New England, and I'm going to do some sightseeing through New England on my way up. I want to swing, so for me to get there, I go up west of New York City, and so I go up to get the Tappan Zee, which isn't called the Tappan Zee Bridge anymore, but for anybody that my age, even younger, it will always be the Tappan Zee. I want to stop and see Sleepy Hollow and Tarrytown, so I'm going to do a little bit of sightseeing there, and then I want to do some sightseeing in Connecticut. I want to go to Mystic, and there's an old castle there that I really want to see. My parents took us there when I was 5, I think, and my brother 3, and what I mostly remember from that trip, and for anybody thinking about taking your young kids or grandchildren somewhere other than maybe Disney, this is the kind of stuff they'll remember from their trip. So my parents took us on the whole New England trip. We did all kinds of historical things. We went to Salem, Mystic, I mean, you know, hit everything up through Massachusetts. And what I remember is a gravel pile at the campground that my brother and I wanted to slide down the whole time we were at the campground. Some birds that were nesting at that same campground. And then I remember going to a castle where the guys, he built it for his wife or something, and then his wife died, and he started adopting cats, and there were pictures of this castle with like hundreds of cats in it. This is what I remember from that trip. So when you're thinking about what your 5-year-old's going to remember, it's not going to be what you think it's going to be. So I really would like to go back to Mystic and see some of these things as an adult. And I think I know which castle it was that we went to, and we'll see. There's a castle that's in a park, and I am going to go visit that. And hopefully the leaves will be changing. Anyway, I may be leaving as early as Tuesday after next, which means normally I would be filming later in that week. So either I'm going to film early and it will be a short episode, or I'm going to be a week late. I'm not entirely sure which is going to happen yet. It probably will depend on how much stitching I get done between now and then. Also, it will depend on the weather, because the weather may change my plans there. I'll be going up for Stitch New England either way, but it's only like a 4.5, 5-hour drive for me to where Stitch New England is. So if the weather's crappy, I won't be doing any of that other sightseeing, because it's just not going to be fun in the rain. So that will determine whether I have an early video or I miss a week. So that's what's going on. And I hope everybody else is enjoying the now cooler weather, unless you're in the part of the Midwest where it's still crazy hot. They're supposed to drop to like a high of the 90s in a week or so, and I hope for their sake it does. It's just insanely hot for this time of year. I mean, they kept talking about it. The weather people were talking about it. Record high, record high, record high. Anyway, so stay cool. I hope everybody's having fun with your Halloween or fall stitching, or whatever you are stitching on. And I think that is everything for tonight. So have a fantastic weekend. Happy stitching, and I'll see you all soon. Bye.